This week on Jerusalem Dateline, revelations that Israel planned to attack Iran's nuclear facilities 3 times. What impact will it have after the U.S. and 6 world powers sign their deal with Iran? Plus, we take to the streets to see what Israelis think. And the Sunni-Shiite divide, is it fracturing the Middle East? And see how one of Jerusalem's markets is not only full of sights and sounds, but fulfills biblical prophecy. Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell, coming to you this week from Jerusalem's largest open-air market, Mahane Yehuda. It's full of sights and sounds, and later in the broadcast, Julie Stahl will be talking to some of the people here in the market. Well, first, Israel's former defense minister Ehud Barak had a stunning revelation that Israel almost attacked Iran's nuclear facilities 3 times in the past few years. According to revelations by Ehud Barak, he and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu were prepared to attack Iran 3 times between 2010 and 2012 when he served as defense minister. The revelations came when Israel's Channel 2 played audio recordings. In those recordings, Barak says that in 2010, he thought they had approval from government ministers for a strike on Iran. But he says 2 cabinet ministers, current Defense Minister Moshe Ayalon and current National Infrastructure Yuval Steinitz, backed down from the plan. Steinitz and Ayalon questioned Barak's view of events and why the military censor allowed the recording to be played that revealed one of the country's deepest secrets. Many analysts wonder if there's some political motivation behind Barak's revelations. The recording came from interviews Barak conducted for a book about himself called My Life's Wars and was supposed to be off the record. The revelations come at a sensitive time when many wonder if Israel is still poised to attack Iran after the recent nuclear agreement. In the meantime, as members of Congress prepare to vote on the Iranian nuclear deal, the AP released the text of the secret agreement between Iran and the IAEA. It says Iran itself will provide photos, videos, and environmental samples to the IAEA from the Parchin military site. Parchin is the site where many believe Iran is developing a trigger for an atomic bomb. Iranian leaders and their proxies also continued their war of words against Israel. Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah said, "We believe with certainty that Israel, this cancerous tumor, is headed for extinction, and that Palestine and Jerusalem will be returned to their people." And a media outlet associated with Iran's Revolutionary Guard released a video on YouTube showing an Iranian invasion of Jerusalem. As you can imagine, those revelations shook up Israel's politics, but also Israelis. Julie Stahl talked to some people here in the market about how Israel should deal with Iran.
What do you think Israel should do regarding Iran?
I think Iran shouldn't have the power to be destroying nations.
In some way to attack them. Not by a huge force or something like that, but very small, and destroy basically the atomic or the nukes, what they have.
Nothing. Be calm. We don't want any war anymore.
I think that Israel really needs to attack in Iran. If Israel will do nothing, so anybody do it.
What can we do? I don't know what we should do. War is not the answer.
Israel should give it a time. Give it a time and watch.
Israel should wait until the right time and then combine forces with the United States and do it.
The Israeli population needs to live in tranquility, cannot continue to live in stress for years and years. And I think actually that let's hope that next year there'll be a new president of the United States with a little bit more sympathy for Israel. Maybe things will change.
So what do you think about the Iranian people?
Israel had very good contact with Iran before '77, before the Ayatollahs took over. And what I know of most of the common people are they're very nice people. Like us, we want to live in peace.
I think they're unfortunately governed by people who don't care about their own people. So they're actually, well, they're poor. It's not their fault.
I'm Iranian. My parents are Iranian.
Yeah?
I think that the people there are Part of them may be nice, part of them not, but the government I think that they are not.
Well, the powder keg known as the Mideast faces another threat, pitting a potential nuclear Iran against ISIS, the world's largest terrorist group. Iran represents Shiite Islam, while ISIS are Sunni Muslims. While they face common enemies, they also hate each other. And as Eric Steckelback reports, this has major implications for America and its allies in the region.
One side leads chants of death to America and calls the United States the Great Satan. The other beheads American journalists and calls on Muslims to attack the U.S. homeland. Iran's leaders and ISIS have much in common: hatred for Israel and the West and a desire to spread extremist Islam worldwide top the list. Yet Iran and its proxy Hezbollah are now fighting ISIS in Iraq and Syria. It's the main battleground in a growing war for regional supremacy between Sunni and Shia jihadists.
If you look at the Middle East today, you could be excused for being really confused, because we have Sunni jihadis on one side who don't like the West, but are also fighting Shia jihadis on the other side who also don't like the West, but they really don't like each other.
The Washington Institute's Matthew Levitt has worked as an analyst for the FBI and the Department of Treasury.
The Shia and the Sunnis now are very much at loggerheads, and they may share hatred of Israel, they may share hatred of the West, certainly suspicion of the West, but this sectarianism is the dominant issue right now.
The main battleground right now for this intra-Islam conflict is Syria. On the Sunni side, there are ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and other terrorist groups. These groups, who've also been known to battle each other, have been supported to varying degrees by Sunni governments in the region, like Turkey and Saudi Arabia. On the Shia side are Iran and its proxy Hezbollah, both of whom are propping up the regime of Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad. This Sunni-Shia conflict is also raging in Iraq, Lebanon, and Yemen. Levitt says the nuclear deal recently struck by the Obama administration with Iran has only heightened tensions.
People in the region are also very concerned about an Iran deal, which appears to some to be embracing and legitimizing the Islamic Republic of Iran, despite its ongoing acts of terrorism and support for terrorism and its adventurism in the Middle East.
Sunni Muslims comprise roughly 85% of the world's Muslim population, while Shiites make up only about 15%. The two sides split in the 7th century because they disagreed over who should succeed Islam's prophet Muhammad. Shias felt it should be someone from Muhammad's direct bloodline. Sunnis disagreed. They have frequently been in conflict ever since and differ in certain areas in their interpretation of Islam. The hostility can run deep. Sunni ISIS, for example, considers all Shiites apostates who must be killed. Yet Middle East expert Elliot Chodoff says the reason for the current conflict runs deeper than religious differences. He notes that Shiite Iran has supported Sunni terrorist groups against Israel and the West.
Why are ISIS and Iran fighting each other? Because look, they both hate America, they're both jihadist entities. Why are they fighting each other?
The simple answer is power.
Chodoff told CBN News that Iran and ISIS both want to dominate the region and are standing in each other's way.
In many ways, it's classical fascism. These are fascist either regimes or organizations.
An interesting byproduct of ISIS's rise and Iran's march to nuclear weapons is the growing relationship between Israel and its Arab neighbors in Egypt, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia.
They're working very, very closely with the Israelis because they have shared interests and shared concerns about the jihadis on both sides of this conflict.
It's a concern shared by the United States, which continues to be the main target for jihadists of all stripes. Eric Stackelbeck, CBN News, Washington.
Well, ISIS is selling sex slaves. The UN Special Envoy on Sexual Violence says ISIS has even created a price list to sell its captured women and children. The envoy tells Bloomberg Business that captured boys and girls aged 1 to 9 sell for the equivalent of $165 US. Adolescent girls can be bought for $124, and women in their 20s are being sold for $85. The UN envoy, who is a Muslim, says sometimes ISIS sells the girls back to their families for thousands of dollars. We've reported on how ISIS rapes and sells girls into sexual slavery. Now the Islamic group is saying the raping of non-Muslims is part of Islamic religious practices. Up next, expert Nina Shea explains what's happening to the Christians in the Middle East and what's being done to help them. Welcome back to Jerusalem Dateline in the Mahane Yehuda market. A large number of Christians are among the many refugees that fled ISIS and other Islamic groups. Nina Shea directs the Center for Religious Freedom at the Hudson Institute. She spoke about this ongoing crisis recently in our Washington, D.C. studio. Nina, thanks for being with us and great to see you again.
Great to see you, Chris. Thank you.
It's been over a year now since ISIS took over Mosul and then other parts of northern Iraq. How would you describe the situation, especially for Christians in that part of the world right now?
What we're seeing is Christians are being told that they have, by ISIS and other rebel groups there, that they have to pay a tax or else convert or else flee, well, or die. So the tax is a ruse. The tax keeps increasing until they can no longer pay it, and they have to either give over their children and their wife or die, be killed. So the men are killed by ISIS, they're beheaded, they're crucified, they're otherwise slaughtered, and the women and children are sold into slavery, and it's sex slavery. But ISIS has printed price lists for Christian women, starting with ages 1 through 9, and they're the most expensive.
How many Christians right now have fled and living in safe areas like Kurdistan, and how many actually are still under the sway or jurisdiction, so to speak, of ISIS?
The Christians, 150,000 of them or so, 125,000, the numbers are somewhat soft, all fled. They went to Kurdistan, some went to Jordan, some went to Lebanon. They've continued to leave the region family by family. There's probably less than 100,000 in Nineveh, in Kurdistan now from Nineveh, this northern province that was attacked a year ago.
Now, what is one of the things that you're doing right now? You're actually trying to relocate some of these Christians.
Yes, they have been mendicant for the last year. ISIS stripped them of all their property, and when they went into exile, they went into safe havens that will not give them residency status, that will not give them work authorization. So they have no money. So it's a very bleak picture, and we've decided that for some of the most needy cases, they need to leave. They need to start their lives over. They need to be resettled in countries that would give them work authorization, that would allow them to rebuild their lives. And so I'm working with Hollywood producer Mark Burnett to do just that.
And what are you actually doing, and what countries are you trying to relocate these Christians in?
Well, we're looking at where there would be cultural compatibility. So for the Armenians, Armenia, they're Christian, of course. The Orthodox countries, we're looking at Orthodox communities, we're looking at Orthodox countries, maybe Georgia, maybe Russia, maybe some places in Eastern Europe. For the Catholics, we're looking and Protestants, we're looking at the Western countries, and some countries like Poland and Belgium have taken in small numbers, Canada. But again, it's difficult to find countries because the numbers of refugees from these two countries, not just Christians, but also the Muslim refugees, is overwhelming. Now, the difference with Christians is that they, underneath the conflict, they're not just running from a conflict, they're running from targeted persecution against them.
Going forward, how can the church respond to this situation?
The Church of the West and the free world, Latin America, needs to pray all the time. Not just once a year, but pray every Sunday in congregation for these persecuted Christians. They need to learn about it. And if they want to help with the airlift rescue, they can contact me at the Hudson Institute, hudson.org, www.hudson.org. They need to know that Christians are facing genocide. They need to help these Christians. They need to help them with their prayer and with aid for them to leave. And if they can contact their political representatives and the candidates running for office to say the United States should take its share of Christians as well.
Well, it's a great, very important message, Nina. Thanks for sharing it.
Thank you.
Up next, biblical prophecy fulfilled in Jerusalem's trendy open-air market. Welcome back to Jerusalem Dateline. Jerusalem's open-air market is one of the most colorful and popular spots in the city. And as CBN's Scott Ross shows us, right here in this place, biblical prophecy is being fulfilled.
Mahane Yehuda, the camp of Judah, known as the Shuk in Hebrew. It's Jerusalem's most famous market, and like so many other places in the city, there's nothing ordinary about it. Here we are in the city of Jerusalem.
Absolutely.
We're about to cross a very well-known, historically known, Jaffa Road. About a mile and a half down the road is the old city's Jaffa Gate. In the late 1800s, a few brave Jews established homes here, a long way from the protection of the city walls.
Today you would never even imagine such a thing, but when they moved out of the old city, they were moving to these secured kind of neighborhoods. And that's why the name of the market is called Machane Yehuda. It's named after that neighborhood that was built in 1887.
Jaffa Road connects Jerusalem to the Mediterranean seaport at Jaffa, considered by some the oldest harbor in the world.
Who would have been on this road in the recent history? Someone like General Allenby, when he came and conquered this from the Ottomans, 1917. Theodore Herzl came down this road. But when we think really old, really ancient, do you realize that the cedars from Lebanon that were imported by David and then Solomon, they had to come from Jaffa into Jerusalem. Now, we don't know exactly the route they took, but this was the main artery. It certainly hasn't disappeared off the face of the earth. It's had a transformation. Now it's a pedestrian mall with a beautiful European light rail going through it.
My wife Nedra and I joined Hannah Ben Haim on a walk through the Shuk on a busy Friday as shoppers prepared for the Sabbath.
It's Shabbat, and we have to buy challah. Challah is the braided Shabbat bread, and it comes in several different styles. One is sweeter than the other. Do we want it with raisins and sweet, or do we want it without raisins?
I like raisins.
Okay, we want the tzimukim. And traditionally, you would buy two of them, because on the Friday, when the children of Israel were in the desert, they always had a double portion, right? Let's go find some olives.
One spicy olive.
That's good and spicy.
Of course, the olive is part of the symbol of Israel.
Yeah.
We have the menorah with the two abbreviated branches from Zechariah 4. Not by might, not by power. But aren't these delicious?
They're good.
So let's keep going down. Look at, isn't it beautiful? Look at
Everything. Look at this.
And they're organic.
Dozens of countries and cultures are represented in the Shuk, brought here by Jews returning to the land from more than 100 countries. An Iranian Jew started a spice shop in Jerusalem in 1953 and later moved here to the Shuk. Today his grandsons still run the shop.
All the mixes is the same like the grandfather. Everything I grind here.
And you do all the mixtures yourself?
Before I mix all this. This is for rice, cheese, salad. This is pistachio, onion, and mixed spices. It's mixed for rice.
So 3 generations mixing spices and selling spices here in Jerusalem from Iran.
An estimated 200,000 people visit the Shuk each week. Rich and poor, young and old, religious and secular, as well as Jews and Arabs, shop in the market. But it's had its share of tragedy, too. Yeah.
Well, this is what I came to show you. That says remember, to remember.
July 30, 1997. Suicide bombers killed 16 people here and wounded almost 200. Terror attacks in the market virtually destroyed business, so the municipality reinvented the Shuk to make it one of the trendiest places in the city.
How are we going to encourage people to come back here? So the new floors and the new ceilings, and even though it doesn't look very brand new to you, And also the openness to so many different other kinds of shops and restaurants, bistros, even nightlife is here.
It's obviously been very successful.
So you see, all things work together for good. This tragedy brought new life. We haven't even seen a tiny fraction of this shuk yet. And this is called the Iraqi market. So we're going down this way now.
More than 250 vendors sell everything from fruits and vegetables to gourmet cheeses, nuts, and special boutique items like flavored tahina and halva. And some of the best restaurants in the city are here.
This is very open kitchen. Come see.
Yes.
This is a lamb.
Lamb.
We like lamb.
Very good. It's spicy.
We ate at the Azura restaurant, started by the owner's father in 1952, with traditional Turkish and Iraqi food. It's so amazing, the abundance of food that's here. I mean, the tomatoes are like that, and the variety of food. One religious Jew summed up the shuk for us. He said, if you want to talk to God, go to the Western Wall. But if you want to see God at work, go to the shuk. And that's exactly what we saw. Scott Ross at Mahane Yehuda Market in Jerusalem.
Up next, a new museum being built in the heart of Washington, D.C. will celebrate the Bible with some help from the land of the Bible. Welcome back to Jerusalem Dateline. The Museum of the Bible being built in Washington, D.C. will feature artifacts directly from the Holy Land. It's part of an agreement between the museum and the Israel Antiquities Authority. Paul Strand has more from Capitol Hill.
It won't be ready for a couple of years, but construction of the world's largest Bible museum began with an act of destruction, ripping away at a building in the way. And for the first time, its designers put on display the finalized artwork of what the $400 million Museum of the Bible will actually look like.
Our idea and our desire is to tell the Bible story in such an engaging way that people will want to spend hours in the museum.
Steve Green's family not only runs the mega business Hobby Lobby, but also owns one of the largest collections of Bible artifacts in the world. Most will find a home in the new museum, along with many high-tech, innovative displays to bring God's Word to life.
When we think of the word museum, sometimes you think of old and dusty, but what we will be doing is making this technologically advanced, where that it's very engaging and interactive, where that somebody could have a customized tour if they wanted to.
The museum is set to open in 2017, just a few hundred yards from the National Mall and the most famous Smithsonian's, like the popular Air and Space Museum. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from the future site of the Museum of the Bible.
Well, that's it for this edition from Jerusalem's Mahane Yehuda Market. Remember, you can follow us on Facebook or Twitter. I'm Chris Mitchell. We'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.